me? It is. Hello guys, welcome back to 157. Today, we're going to be talking about... I forgot, wait, give me 1 second. Today guys, we're talking about how striking vagueness can be and how blunt clarity can become. That statement is vague in itself. We're talking about details. No, I'm not trying to sound deep. It just sounds like the most practical way to say it. Anyway, I'll just start with a very short sentence. It's gonna be what our whole lessons gonna be rooted around and how we're supposed to be using details in stories, or at least a good way to use details. The red reflected against the moonlight as it ran down her pained expression. Can you get the picture of what's going on? Or do we have to say the sentence, blood was all over the pained woman's face? Well, which sentence would you prefer? The first or the latter? Which has more depth, more emotion, and yet more information? Well, if I would answer that, it would actually depend. The latter? A work of simpler aim. The first? Probably something to do with suspense. But what is visible is that the first has a more darkened tone, less solidified, not at all punctuated. You let the reader put the pieces together. This is what makes a mystery novel. You let the audience do the work for themselves, putting the pieces together in every perspective, but actually, I mean especially in details, which is what we're talking about today. And in this case, a lack of details can be stronger than a wealth of them. It can paste the mood, provoke the reader to think and understand, and fill in the blanks, giving them a more personal sensation of horror, dread, and interest in whatever you're writing about. And it still delivers the same meaning of the statement. On the other hand, short and more direct sentences can lead to a more, of course, direct approach, adding a more impactful sense of wordplay. He stabbed the man is an example. In the sentence, the wording feels more powerful. It doesn't dabble in the detail, it's straight to the point. This is a technique a fair amount of authors use in writing whenever they're trying to deliver something that's supposed to hit hard with the audiences. In contrast, longer and less direct sentences, this time immersing themselves in detail, can help build suspense. And it takes these details to continue the story. For example, the razor was soaked in black. There is no active event going on in the sentence. It's just telling you what the details of certain aspects are. And yet these details can tell a story in themselves, letting the reader figure out what that is. With these two in mind, remember to position them effectively. Do not let your sentence dabble in details when you need to be direct, when you need to hit the audience. And do not hit the audience when you're trying to add a little bit of suspense. These are just two fundamental things you want to do whenever we're talking details. I know the subject of details can be a very, very broad spectrum, but I'm keeping it to the spectrum of amount. How many details you should put in to a certain sentence to have the amount of impact you really want it to. And now we're moving on to where you should put the details and how. And now then it begins to rain. Let's get a little into more details. The way you express these beautiful things we call details can also change the color of the sentence. Gracefully, that was the way her hair flowed down to her shoulders. Her hair flowed down gracefully to her shoulders. Alright, opinion time. Which one would you prefer? Regardless of my voice. Anyway, once more, the first becomes a more personal sentence, more thoughtful, more personified, while the second, a more forwarded direction of how an action was done, somewhat incoherent to the actual text. That was a mouthful. I'm a terrible writer. Anyway, example time. What am I Alright. A beautiful blend of both kinds of sorting details and amounting details can be seen from one of my favorite novels, Frank Peretti's Piercing the Darkness. From page 403, I think it's the third paragraph. Anyway, it says here, and I quote, Cull was holding his chest. His shirt was slashed, red with blood. Alright, let's give it a little bit of analysis. For one thing, the semicolon, my relatively long pause, was longer than it should have been. Anyway, that pause indicates the semicolon, which also indicates the change in trend from direct to detail, respectively. As in, Cull was holding his chest, a sentence obviously direct and impactful for the next detail that was, his shirt was slashed, red with blood, letting a little horror settle in for the readers. Leveling down, that's a little bit too graphic for me. Anyway, leveling down, we're gonna go to a children's book, Sharon Creech's, also one of my favorite novels. Sharon Creech's Walk 2 Moons. I'm just using this to prove that both styles, direct and the dabbler in detail, I don't have a name for the other one. Anyway, both styles can deliver different kinds of emotion, unique ones at best. As our author, as I said before, Sharon Creech, conveys the emotion of emptiness using simplistic details of characters' actions in her book. I'm not entirely sure what page this was, but anyway, I'm just gonna quote it. It's, one of the last chapters. Anyway, it says here, he put one arm over his eyes. His other hand patted the empty space beside him. Simplistic details. It's a combination of both direct and details. It's just powerful. The sentence personally falls as a very strong one. It's so simplistic. It uses its details to convey such unique emotion. These are what details and directness can do to a story. Alright, but less on details, more on direct approaches. Anyway, direct approaches used impactfully can even be seen in such a book as the Bible, written thousands of years ago. Anyway, I'm gonna read from the English Standard Version, Matthew 16:70. As when Peter denied his discipleship with Jesus, simply saying, but he denied it before them all. This simplicity captures the strong, harsh emotion of denial and desperation. I know it sounds strange, but it actually does. I wish I could elaborate more and more on what this sentence really does for the story of Jesus and the crucifixion, but it's so direct, so simplistic, that's kind of the point. Alright, so in quick summary, what can we learn from this, always being the consistent question? Well, we can learn that sentences carried by details can lead to a more suspenseful sentence, adding more and more drama, more and more activity from the reader. While other sentences led by directness can lead to a stronger, more blunt approach, as I used the examples of the Bible, and the combination in Frank Peretti's Piercing the Darkness. Use these sentences together thoughtfully, and you're one step better at writing. Wow, this was really long and tiring. Thank you guys for joining me. I definitely recommend all of these books. They're all one of my favorites, especially the Bible. Frank Peretti's Piercing Darkness, Sharon Creech's Walk 2 Moons, and yes, please, I really recommend reading them. I don't know what else to elaborate on. I just said that twice. So, as this is where, again, I admit I'm bad at conclusions, and thank you guys. Bye.